Greetings, brothers and sisters. This is Brother Mota Mwanidi sharing the authentic truth brought to us by Zulula, the second, the messenger in the mysteries, in the hidden revelations of the word of Loba. We give thanks to Loba, creator of heaven and earth, for his great, glorious, and formidable, and for his faithfulness, and that he lives inexplicably out of all realities. So today, the message I'm going to share, I'm translating. In this message, we will enter into the realm of forbidden knowledge. And this message was given by Zulula by the permission of Loba, the only and unique creator, by his grace, by his all divine power. So, in Proverbs 19:2, you're told the lack of science is good for no one. And in Proverbs 25:2, it is the glory of God to hide things, but the glory of kings is to investigate them. And in Jeremiah 33:3, call to me and I will answer you and I will tell you great and hidden things that you have not known. And in John 3:11, truly, truly, I say to you, we speak of what we know and we bear witness to what we have seen. So today we're going to talk about a subject which has concerned many people, many religions. So many people have learned regarding the sacrifice of Isaac by Abraham. Even the fake pastors in the churches that talk regarding, they preach, they try to explain reason why God has tempted Abraham, why God asked Abraham to prove his love, to sacrifice his son, Isaac. And so they'll give sermon and so on. So most of humanity currently in the religions have fallen into that belief that God, they have accepted that God, they have accepted the notion that God tested Abraham. And we shall see, we're going to explain regarding what really happened and what are the spirit, the entity behind what took place. So does God really need to put Abraham to the test? First of all, you have to understand that for people who believe that God is the creator, you have to ask yourself the question, does the creator need to ask someone to put someone to the test, to ask someone to do something for him to prove his love to God or to the creator? Doesn't the creator knows everything? Isn't the creator of heaven and earth? Doesn't he know the thoughts, the heart, the sentiment, the feelings of everyone? Why does God or the creator would need to tempt someone, to test someone, to learn about the feeling of someone? That's how you know it makes no sense. And that's what in the current Bibles, Yahweh, Adonai, Elohim, Jehovah, the Lord, he tested Abraham. He tempted Abraham in other version. And so we're going to start with the current Bibles, and then we're going to give you the true version, the true story, what really happened. Because many people have been deceived, have been tricked. So in Genesis chapter 22, verse 1 in the current Bibles, it says this. In Genesis chapter 22, verse 1, in the Berean Little Bible. And it came to pass after these things that God tested Abraham and said to him, Abraham, and he said, behold, I am here. So here in the Berean Little Bible, it says tested. And in the King James Bible, it says, and it came to pass after these things that God did tempt Abraham. So tempt and tested are used in different versions. So it means the same thing regarding what took place here. And when we go, and you have to understand that that notion is completely false. It's because when we go in James chapter 1 verse 13, you're told in the King James Bible, let no man say when he is tempted, comma. Let no man say when he is tempted. You're told that Abraham was tempted. God tested Abraham, tempted Abraham. And James says, let no man say when he is tempted, comma, I am tempted of God. For God cannot be tempted with evil, neither tempted he any man. So James says, in James you're told that God cannot be tempted, and that neither tempted he any man, that he does not tempt any man. In the Good News Translation, if we are tempted by such trials, we must not say this temptation comes from God. For God cannot be tempted by evil, and he himself tempts no one. So already you're seeing the contradictions between James chapter 1 verse 13 and Genesis chapter 22 verse 1. Because in Genesis, God tempted Abraham, and in James, you're told that God does not tempt anyone. So this is a major confusion, contradiction. So, God, you have to understand, does not tempt, does not test. So who is that God that tempted Abraham, that tested Abraham? So that's how you understand that the current classical Bibles are full of lies, contradictions, error, mistakes. Now, some are going to say, well, if the Bibles are full of lies and contradictions, why are you using the Bibles to give the teachings? Because you're told in 1 Thessalonians chapter 5 verse 20, do not despise prophecies, but test everything, hold fast to what is good. So Paul says, so his true name is Bibè, the apostle, says, do not despise the prophecy, examine all things and retain what is good. So we examine the scriptures, the text, the current Bible, and we retain what is good. We show you what is good. We show you the contradiction, what is evil, what is bad. We show the differences. So, like I've mentioned in the Bible, the God that many have accepted tempted Abraham. Tempted Abraham. Yahweh, Jehovah, Elohim, the Lord, tempted Abraham. He tested him, he tempted him. And you're told that in James 1:13, God does not tempt. So who is claiming to be God? Who is that spirit? Who is the person who tempted Abraham? Question mark. In Genesis chapter 22 verse 2, in the Good Word translation, you're told, God said, so this is in verse 2, after, because you're told in verse 1 that it came to pass that God tempted Abraham. And then he responded. And basically, he spoke to Abraham. I'll read again verse 1. Genesis chapter 22 verse 1. And it came to pass after this thing that God did tempt Abraham and said to him, Abraham, and he said, behold, here I am. Verse 2, he says, take your son, comma. So now in the conversation, God is giving him instruction during the temptation, during the test. He's saying, God said, take your son, comma, your only son, Isaac, comma. And you have to understand that this is another big lie, contradiction, confusion. Because here it says, your only son. Only, that means one, unique. But Isaac is not the unique son of Abraham. So this makes no sense. Because Abraham already had another son. He had Ishmael. What is this God that doesn't even understand that Abraham had another son? And he's saying in the temptation, take your only son. Well, Abraham should have known, well, this is not my only son. I have another son. Who are you? What are you saying? You're in confusion. You don't know how to count. Take your son, God said, your only son, Isaac. That's the confusion. Because Ishmael was born before Isaac. whom you love so much, and go to the land of Moriah. There on the mountain that I will show you, offer him as a sacrifice to me. You see what God is asking Abraham to do? To offer his son in sacrifice, to kill him, to burn him. So, if this is the God that you have accepted, you have to understand that this God, this spirit, this person speaking here, asking that, is evil. You don't, common sense, logic, morality, your conscience lets you know that if someone is telling you, no, take your son and go and kill him, when the same God says you shall not kill, that cannot be God. That's an evil spirit. And that's the God that many have accepted. That's the God that many worship. That's the God many have accepted in their heart. The so-called Yahweh, Jehovah, Elohim, the Lord, and so on, that many will pray. This is his deed. This is what he's asking people. Sacrifices. Human sacrifices. Now, we're going to go in the authentic version, in the authentic Bible, to show you what really happened, because the current Bibles are full of lies, contradictions. The people who have written the copies of the copies, translating, they were not mandated. They were in confusion. That's why you see a lot of errors, because they were inspired by evil spirits to write nonsense, to make people believe in a false God, a God that tempts, and people wonder why their spiritual life is not going right, because they have accepted scriptures, text full of lies and contradictions, and they nourish themselves from that. We shall go in the authentic Bible, Kálat'a Bibèl, the only authentic Bible without any errors or contradiction. We will see exactly what took place, what happened, because Loba is the only and unique creator, and he does not tempt. We shall go in Bibèl. So that's Origin, chapter 23, verse 1 to 21. It says this in verse 1. So the title is Sango. Sango is true name of the patriarch known as Abraham in the current day Bible. His true name is Sango, and he was black. Sango is ready to offer Yololo. So Yololo is the true name of the personage known as Isaac in the current Bible. Sango is ready to offer Yololo in sacrifice. So chapter 23, verse 1, it says, after this event, so after this event, some event took place. This is in a distant past in ancestral Africa. It says this, after these events, Satan the Mundima Bobé, in bracket, evil spirit in chief. Yes, this is what you're told here. You're revealed in the scriptures, in the text, in Kálat'a, who Satan the Mundima Bobé, evil spirit in chief, took the appearance of the Mukaisedi, in bracket, the entity, who had appeared with the two watchers to Sango, so to Abraham in the current Bible, near the big sacred trees in the region of Bengé, to Wase Mutonga, Central Africa, towards Mundongo Midima Elomba, mountain of the heavenly spirits, while Sango was seated at the entrance of his tent during the heat of the day. So you're told here that Satan took the appearance. Basically, Satan disguised himself as the entity, as Mukaisedi. Mukaisedi is the entity that guides and enthrones the initiates. He is the one who protects as well. So, and Mukaisedi had previously appeared to Sango to Abraham. And now Satan appeared to Abraham while disguising himself as Mukaisedi, the entity. And you're told here, so after this event, Satan the Mudima Bobé in chief took the appearance of the Mukaisedi, the entity who had appeared with the two watchers. To Sango. So Mukaisedi before the entity had appeared to Sango with the two watchers. In the current Bibles, you're told in other translations that basically it wasn't two watchers that appeared with that appeared. It says in the current version in Genesis 18, it says that in the Bible de l'Épée, that's another translation, it says it was Melchizedek, Shem, and Noah. Yes, Shem and Noah that appeared to Abraham. That is wrong. It's rather, it was an entity, Mukaisedi, and two watchers that appeared to the patriarch Sango. So here, once again, after this event, Satan the Mudima Bobé, so this is Bebote, the origin, chapter 23, verse 1, in the Kálat'a, the Authentic Bible. After this event, Satan the Mudima Bobé, evil spirit in chief, took the appearance of Mukaisedi, the entity who had appeared with the two watchers to Sango near the big sacred trees in the region of Bangé, west of Wassemutonga, Central Africa, towards Mundongoma, Midima, Elomba, mountain of the heavenly spirits, while Sango was seated at the entrance of his tent during the heat of the day. Verse 2. He appeared to Sango and seduced him, saying, Sango, and Sango replied, here I am. So you're told here that Satan appeared, so disguised himself, took the appearance of Mukaisedi, an entity of the great order of things. That is, that entity Mukaisedi is basically faithful to the word of Loba. Is still at the service of the verb of Loba. So Satan disguised himself, pretended to be Mukaisedi. So pretended to be the entity. And he seduced, you're told here in verse 2, he seduced Sango. Yes, Satan seduced Sango, saying Sango, and Sango replied, here I am. Verse 3, and Satan the Mudima Bobé, evil spirit, said, take now Yolala, one of your sons, comma. You see, in the authentic version, Satan himself knew that Abraham had another son. So he couldn't say, take your only son, because that was not the case. Satan the Mudima Bobé, evil spirit, said, now, take now Yolala, one of your sons, and offer him to Loba as an offering to burn on the hills that I will tell you. Period. So that's what Satan said. He seduced, he tricked, he disguised himself, he pretended to be Mukaisedi, and he asked Sango to offer Yolala, one of his sons, as an offering to Loba, the only and unique creator. That's what Satan wanted Sango to do. But you're not told here that Loba approves of such things. That was the will of Satan, his desire. Verse 4. The next day, Sango got up early. He split the wood for the sacrifice, saddled his SL, in bracket donkey, so that's what he means, and set off toward the place that Satan, the Mudima Bobé, evil spirit, had indicated to him. So the next day, basically, Sango prepared and he got ready to do what Satan told him. But he was in the belief, he was seduced, he was tricked that he thought that it was Mukaisedi, the entity, but it was Satan. He took with him two men of hand, as well as his son Yololo. Verse 5. Two days later, he saw the place from afar. So 2 days later, after Satan appeared to him, took the appearance. Basically the day after the next day that happened. So he saw the place from afar. Verse 6. Then he said to the two men of hand, "Stay here with the donkey. My son and I will go up there to worship Loba." So he told his two men of hand, that other will call henchmen, to stay there with the donkey, and he will go up to worship Loba with his son. Verse 7. Sango took the small pieces of wood for the sacrifice, made the bundle of them, and had his son Yololo carry it. He himself carried embers of fire in an ember carrier and a knife, and then they both left. So they left. Because to go and worship, it could take some time, so that's why they took some some instruments. Verse 8, you're told, Yololo addressed his father Sango. "My father," he replied. "Yes, I'm listening to you, my son. We have embers of fire and a bundle of wood," said Yololo. "But where is the lamb for the meal?" Yololo asked, because he noticed, he says, yes, we have the embers for the fire, bundle of wood, but where is the meal? Where is the game? Where's the lamb? Where's the animal? Verse 9. Sango replied, "My son, Mukaisedi, the entity, can provide it himself, can himself provide the lamb." So Sango replied, Mukaisedi, the entity, himself can provide the lamb. They continued their journey together. So Sango replied, basically, Mukaisedi can procure us what is needed. Verse 11. Then suddenly, before that, verse 10. When they arrived at the place that Satan, the Mudima Bobé evil spirit, had indicated to him, Sango built an altar with stones that he had found there and disposed the small pieces of wood there. So he prepared, he built an altar, he prepared, he disposed. Verse 11. Then suddenly he grabbed Yolala, his own son, and Yolala was surprised and said, my father, why are you grabbing me like this? ? You are scaring me. So Yolala was surprised because his father grabbed him, suddenly grabbed him. And he was surprised and said, my father, why are you grabbing me? Why? You are scaring me. Verse 12, Sango said to him, my son, Mukaisedi, the entity, appeared to me and told me to offer you as a sacrifice to Loba. Period. So that's what Sango replied to his son. Mukaisedi, the entity in the current Bibles, is known as the angel of the Lord. But Mukaisedi is his true name, is the entity. So you're told here that Sango replied that he tell his son, because his son was surprised, was wondering why his son Yolala was wondering why my father is grabbing me. Sango said to him, my son, Mukaisedi, the entity, appeared to me and told me to offer you as a sacrifice to Loba. So that's what Sango believed, that Mukaisedi had appeared to him. But he did not know that Satan deceived, tricked, took the appearance, disguised himself as the entity. And Yolala, in verse 13, replied, trembling with fear, column, no, my father, Loba cannot authorize such a thing to a man. Ha! You see, Yolala here had the intelligence, understood, had pierced the revelation. He knew, even despite his young age, his adolescence, he knew that Loba, the only and unique creator, cannot authorize a man to offer his son as a sacrifice. He understood that that was an abomination. That could not be. That's how you understand. In the current Bibles, the Lord of the Bible, the Yahweh, the Jehovah, Elohim, the false God that many people worship in their assemblies, in their churches, they pray, they sing. In their Bible, that God, so-called God, Yahweh, Jehovah, Elohim, the Lord, and so on, in the scripture, in the text, is asking for sacrifice. You see the sacrifice in the scriptures, in the text, in the current Bibles. Many times. Animal sacrifices, burnt offering, and so on. Even regarding Abel. You're told regarding Abel that killed. And you're told that God took pleasure into that offering. Even after the flood in the current Bibles, Noah made sacrifices. So in the Bible, in the current Bibles, you see sacrifices after sacrifices. Because it's evil. Those practices, those are occult practices. And some people are going to try to argue, trying to justify that. There's no justification. It's evil, it's wrong. It's against morality. And Yolala understood that. He told his father, "No, my father, Loba cannot authorize such a thing to a man." But Sango did not listen to him because he was under the influence of Satan, the Mundima Bobé, evil spirit. So Sango was under the influence because he had been tricked. He was seduced. Verse 15, Sango gagged his mouth, then bound him and laid him on the altar on top of the small pieces of wood. So he didn't want to listen. He gagged his mouth, bound him, and laid him on the altar. Because, you see, he was acting under the influence of an evil spirit, of Satan, the Mundima Bobé, the evil spirit in chief. Verse 16, then he reached out his hand and took the knife to slit his son the throat. So he wanted to slay his son. Verse 17, but immediately the true entity appeared to Sango and interpellated him. So the Mukaisedi, the true Mukaisedi, who doesn't authorize such practices, such occult deeds, burnt sacrifices, animal sacrifices, human sacrifices, he doesn't authorize that. He wouldn't tell a man to do such things. So the true entity appeared to Sango and interpellated him. Sango, yes, replied Sango, I'm listening to you. Verse 18, Mukaisedi, the entity, ordered him, lay not your hand on the child. Do him no harm. Verse 19, for you have been deceived by Satan, the Mundima Bobé, evil spirit. So Mukaisedi revealed to Sango that you've been tricked, you've been deceived by Satan. Don't hurt the child. Do him no harm. Because what you're trying to do is not the will, is not what Mukaisedi has asked you. You've been deceived, you've been tricked. And many have been tricked into believing that it is God who asked Abraham to do that action in the current Bibles, when in fact it was Satan. Verse 20, and your son, Yolala, has penetrated this well. Mukaisedi told Sango that your son understood it. He penetrated that. He understood that Mukaisedi, the entity, the one who guides, the initiate, will not ask a man to commit such evil deed, actions. And your son, Yolala, has penetrated this well. At this very instant, Sango was freed from the influence of Satan and cried bitterly because of what he wanted to do to his son. And because he allowed himself to be inadvertently deceived because of the entrance door of the polygamy. You see? So here you're told what was the door, because for Satan to act, to come, to be able to trick him to commit that, there need to be an entrance door. The entrance doors was what? The entrance door that Sango had was polygamy, because he had many wives. And that's against the law. And because of that entrance door, he was tricked, he was seduced. And you're told he was inadvertently deceived. In verse 21, Sango joined his 2 men of hand with his son Yololo. They set off and went to Dipondi, Basamba, Beersheba, where Sango settled. So there's also a spirit behind polygamy. So for those who claim no, polygamy is allowed, or those who claim that it's African tradition and so on, you are in confusion. You don't understand the origin, where it came from. So that's the true story, what took place. Sango the patriarch was tricked, was seduced, was deceived by Satan. It was Satan that asked him to offer his son Yololo as a sacrifice. That is what really happened. So, once again, in the current Bibles, it's a confusion, because you're told that God tempted Abraham, but James tells you that God does not tempt. So it's already in a contradiction. It's already a lie. There's a lie. So when there's a lie, the story is false. So there's, in that story, in the current Bibles, it's full of lies. So that's the truth that they've tried to hide, that many don't know, many are in confusion, many, even when we show what took place, many are hardened because of their arrogance. Because here in Kálat'a, that's the light. The actions of Satan, the Mundima Bobé, the evil spirits, are revealed. How he acted, how he tricked, how he deceived. And he doesn't like that. That's why they changed a lot of what took place. They falsified. But all that was in vain, because Bibèl is here. The truth. All glory be to Loba, the only and unique Creator.